Okie dokie. Good morning. Hopefully everything is working well. I was freaking out just a few moments ago. I was like, where is my video on YouTube? It's not showing. Because I have the app open on my tablet as well, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not sure what's happening. It looks like it's working just fine now. Hello, Hakezu. Good morning to you. Alrighty, so I'm just double checking everything. 1 second. I think there's just too many windows open. That might be the reason why this thing is slowing down a little bit, but hopefully it's not too bad. Okay. Alright, so welcome to session 41. We are going to be having our greetings today, videos discussion, and question, comments, concern, and suggestion. Morning, honey. Good morning. Good morning to you, Hakezu. Alright, for greetings. So, these past few days, well, not until today, I suddenly have a toothache. Like, this side of my mouth hurts so bad, and I'm like toughing it out. I know it's time I should go see a dentist, but it just really hurts. I'm just like taking pills here and there, like, okay, I'm gonna take some pain medication because I don't know, like, my gum is hurting. I think it's the gum, not the tooth. The gum hurts so much. I don't know why. I think it was triggered after eating something, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, it's just been aching ever since. Like, I'm just in a lot of pain. I don't know what to do with it, and it hurts. But I'm just hoping, like, it doesn't bother me too much. I do notice, like, yesterday I was getting a little grumpy because of my toothache. And I don't know, taking painkillers does kind of help, so might be taking some painkillers later today just to make this go away. But yeah, the toothache almost made me want to just like cancel today's stream because I'm like, oh, it really hurts a lot. It's bothersome, but I'm just gonna keep toughing it out for the rest of the day. Another thing, I think I forgot to tell the story about like the shirt that I'm wearing. It's like Spy Family. I don't know if you guys can see it. I don't know, maybe I should stand up and show it to you guys. So the shirt is Spy Family. My best friend actually bought it for me yesterday, I think. It was I mean, not yesterday, maybe 2 days ago. So it's like the day where I went to attend my late aunt's funeral. Later that evening, my friend was like, "Are you home?" And Hakezu said, I mean, checking it out with a dentist would probably be the #1 thing to do. I know I will this weekend. Maybe I should schedule like a walk-in or something. We shall see how that will go. Yes, so I'll have to schedule this weekend just because I can't really call off work. My work doesn't provide sick pay. It's like I have to accrue it, which is annoying. Because I am a contracted worker, so I don't get like sick leave or something. I just have to be there for, I mean, I have to attend like multiple times a week. I mean, how do I say this? So how my job does it is like, if I attend every day for 2 weeks, I get 2 hours of sick leave, you know? And that's the only time I can use it. It's like, okay, here's my sick leave. I can use this one and this amount, etc. So it's annoying. I have to wait things off until the weekend, which, you know, kind of sucks. So if I'm not at work, then I don't get paid, of course. So, anyways, what did I want to say here? Right. So, anyways, going back to the topic about the Spy Family shirt, I was like trying to remember what I was doing. Umar Ali, hello, welcome. Thanks for joining in. And popping in, perhaps. Okay, so this shirt that I'm wearing, my best friend decided it would be like a great gag if he would just buy me my favorite anime t-shirt, and he thought it'd be funny if he got something like 3 times my size. So he grabbed the largest size and then just gave it to me. And he's like, I hope it fits you. And I'm just like, you're such a troll, because I'm not this big. I don't mind it, just because my friends do know I do like really baggy clothes, and which means this is just like extra PJ for me, or just like outfits to wear at home. I asked my best friend about it. Apparently it was his girlfriend and his idea. His girlfriend's actually also my best friend, so they're both best friends that I introduced to each other, and they ended up dating, basically. And the girl best friend was like, oh, this would be cute to buy for Hana. And then the guy best friend was like, let's make it 3 times the size. And I'm just like, you guys are ridiculous. But it was a nice present, all the same, because like, of course, it was a very, very sad day for me on during that day. So it was really nice for them to just drive out just to see me. I texted my best friend, the guy. I was like, you said you're gonna be, he said he was gonna be at my place and drop off the present, but I was like, I'm out, I'm still with family right now. And then when I told him I got home, I texted him and I was like, I'm gonna be home. So he decided, okay, I'm gonna drive over. And then he just drives over, gives me the shirt, and that's it, then goes back out and goes home. It's just like a very, very quick meeting, and I'm just like, oh my god. That was really nice of him, of course, because the drive to my place is like roughly under 10 minutes. So it just made me realize, you know, like what kind of friends I have in life. And I think it's like good to reflect upon as we get older, that choosing the right friends, and of course if you limit yourself to just high quality friends, you kind of learn from the way that they treat you. Like, I have friends who make me feel like I'm super special and stuff. Like, I mean, the fact that they drove out just to see me, even though like it's out of the way for them, didn't like hang out, like, and spend a lot of time with me. They just gave me the shirt and then just left. And I'm just like, that's a really, really nice gesture that they decided to just buy me this shirt, you know? And the fact that they know that I like Spy Family, it's just a really kind gesture, and I appreciate that. So yeah, I just thought it was just a great food for thought. Be mindful of like people you let into your life, and who you spend time with, because they how they treat you just shows. And at the same time, it also showed me, like, you know, keeping my standards high. It's not a bad thing, of course, because they show it. They show like they treat me really well as a best friend too. So hello Hans, good morning. Okie dokie. Other things to share. Yesterday was kind of a disaster at work. Mainly because this week has been just a different schedule and everything. My kids are everywhere in their emotions and feelings. That's kind of great. Oh, Hans says, good morning, Professor Hakezu. It's a nice show. I'm currently on season 1, part 2 of it. Oh, nice! So you're watching the second part of the first season. I hope you enjoy it. I'm obsessed with the series. It's so good. I'm already caught up with it. I'm like way ahead in the... Well, I'm caught up in the manga and the anime. I am that level of obsessed. I mean, for crying out loud, I have everything Spy Family right behind me too. I have Spy Family stickers, and then this little acrylic stand. I have it everywhere, so if you guys ever visit, or maybe I shouldn't say visit my place, but yeah, my room is just covered with Spy Family stuff. I even carry a backpack that has a lot of enamel pins on it. My obsession with Spy Family is just like higher. It's just another level. Love the TV show. Yeah, but anyways, what else I want to say? Yeah, my students, they were crazy this last few weeks. Just, I mean, this past week, just because it's like performance week for them. It's like Christmas all over. What I mean by Christmas is that we had a similar schedule where they were performing every single day, and that was like the Christmas show. And they had something similar again for this week because it's Black History Month. And the show is good. There's one particular show I'm a huge fan of, but other than that, I'm not really like I'm kind of like, okay, this is fine. It's just a kid's show. You know what I mean? So, but there's this one show I like in particular where it's like exciting, and it's because the kids are dancing swing, like what kind of swing dance was it? Lindy Hop swing dance. Like, it was really cute when I saw it. I was like, oh my god, they're doing Lindy Hop. That's so adorable. And like, that's my favorite part of the show. It's just seeing that part, and I think it's like the second act, and then I'm just like, okay, back to work right afterwards. like no offense to my kids, but I've seen the show the dress rehearsal, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to watch it again and again and again. But yeah, after the effects of that show, my kids are kind of like all over the place in terms of the schedule, and I'm just like, guys, come on, focus. We have a lot of things to do today. Han says, woo, Lindy. Yes, I know, right? Love it. It made me really excited because, yeah, when I saw Lindy, I was like, oh my gosh, there's even kids doing like solo jazz on stage. It was really cute. They had like this little circle, like a ring, and they would have like a student or two go inside the middle and start dancing. Then they switch out, and another two goes in, and another two go out. And it's just so cute. I would share it if I could, but you know how it is on YouTube in terms of just like showing videos of kids. And of course, I don't think the parents would be happy if I showed videos of their kids without permission, you know? So I mean, I do have the videos of it just because it's just so cute to watch, but I'll show it to my friends in person. I just won't publish it on YouTube. Yeah, just thought that was so super cute. Anyways, yeah, that's been basically my week. Toothache, the performance, and then the Spy Family t-shirt, I guess, in terms of the greetings. Okay. Let's move on to video discussion. So yesterday we focused on a Japanese woman who grew up in America, but she also went back home in Japan. So we got to see a duality in her personality. This time we're watching the opposite, which is about a gentleman who... Oh, the video didn't show, it didn't load, sorry. There's a video here, but it's not showing. Okay, here it is. So the American man speaking Japanese and is by Go North or something? Alrighty. Let me go ahead and change the audio for a second so we can enjoy this video. Oh, I should turn off the music first.
Maybe we can switch to Japanese a little bit?
Okay.
なんか日本語学習において言いたいことってありますか他に？
まあ気にしないで喋ってればいい。めちゃくちゃアメリカ人の訛りで喋ってるけど、それを気にしすぎると何もできなくなるから、それよりもただコミュニケーションちゃんと取ってればそれでいいんじゃない？例えば哲学についてとか宗教について、政治家についてそういう会話できる。なんか言いたいこと伝わる。けど日本人のように喋ることができない。まあいつまでもアメリカ人が日本語を喋ってることになるんだけど、それ別に平気。いいじゃん。僕もアメリカ人だからいいんじゃないかな。潔癖主義になるとなんか動くなくなる人が多いんじゃないかな。まあみんな言うけどなんか上手と言われると実はあんまり上手じゃないという意味になる。だって本当にすごく日本人みたいに喋ってればみんななんか違和感感じてなんかうわーどうしてそうどうして何それみたいな感じになる。でもそう結構そう親しみに、なるんじゃないかな。外国人のあまりの方が。
Okay. It's a very short video. It's actually from this video, why this American chose to rule Japan for life. So we'll watch it one more time.
Maybe we can switch to Japanese a little bit?
Okay.
なんか日本語学習において言いたいことってありますか他に？
まあ気にしないで喋ってればいい。めちゃくちゃアメリカ人の訛りで喋ってるけど、それを気にしすぎると何もできなくなるから、それよりもただコミュニケーションちゃんと取ってればそれでいいんじゃない？例えば哲学についてとか宗教について、政治家についてそういう会話できる。なんか言いたいこと伝わる。けど日本人のように喋ることができない。まあ いつまでもアメリカ人が日本語を喋ってることになるんだけど、それ別に平気、いいじゃん。僕もアメリカ人だからいいんじゃないかな。潔癖主義になるとなんか動くなくなる人が多いんじゃないかな。まあみんな言うけど、なんか上手と言われると実はあんまり上手じゃないという意味になる。だって本当にすごく日本人みたいに喋ってればみんななんか違和感感じて、なんかうわーどうしてそう何それみたいな感じになる。でもそう結構そうしみに、なるんじゃないかな。外国人のあまりの方が。
Okay. Let's talk about that video. All right. What are your thoughts on the video, guys? Curious to hear what you guys think about what we just watched. Any thoughts? I'll start with what I observed. I would say the one that stood out to me was the fact that this guy's accent is very strong. Did anyone else catch that? I'm trying to think of the word, so you guys feel free to keep typing while I'm trying to process. I know there's a word I'm looking for. I just can't think of it. It's a terminology that we use in linguistics. I just wish I remember what it was called. I'm gonna look it up on my phone. Go ahead. So you guys go ahead and keep typing what you've observed and what your thoughts are on this video. Oh, I remember it now. Yes, his accent. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Because if you watch a lot of like anime, or if you've spoken to someone who speaks Japanese, you're gonna notice immediately his accent, right? You could identify the accent easily if you have a lot of experience or recognition of a certain language, then he can speak like that. Okay, so Hans has good points. He said, he spoke faster than the girl yesterday. Okay. Anything else? I think it would be hard for a person who doesn't listen to Japanese often to know it's different. Interesting. Yes, that's very true though, because like if you are someone who doesn't know the language and you hear a foreigner speaking in a language that you're not familiar with, you wouldn't know the difference. It's just more of the native speaker would be able to catch that. So that is a good point, Hakezu. Good. Alright, so I found the word I was looking for. In English, or sorry, in linguistics, when we're talking about the way a person speaks, it's called prosodic features. Prosodic features is talking about the intonation. Intonation is basically the pitch, the way that you speak. So English doesn't particularly have intonations, not unless you are speaking like, not unless you're asking a question. So if I say, did you go to the beach yesterday? Do you notice that my voice is slowly climbing up? Because that's a question, it's a question sentence. So that's the only time our intonation would show. Maybe another one could be in terms of emphasis. That's when we stress the word or we're trying to indicate something. Akazu said weebs only, crying. You're silly. So anyway, sorry, I got distracted. That just made me laugh. Haunted LOL. That's funny. Yes. What was I trying to say again? All right. So intonation is basically when a person uses pitch. So some languages that have intonations would include Vietnamese. There's also Chinese. I know that uses it. Mandarin. Let's see. What else can I think of? I just know Vietnamese and Chinese are the ones that I know who use intonation. You might notice they have like different ways of saying a vowel sound, like ah, 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 ah. Like they have different pitches for it too. So some languages have intonation, which makes it even more difficult. So it's just again, depending on people who enjoy like having a language that's very like rich in phonotations or like phonations. I can't remember which word to say. It might be enjoyable to challenge yourself learning a language that has a lot of pronunciations. Another thing that prosodic features include is pitch. Oh wait, my bad here. So pitch. I'm just trying to find my notes on it. Yeah, pitch is different levels of intonation. So pitch overlaps with intonation. They're almost the same. Pitch is different keys. You might be more familiar with it in terms of like singing. So if you were singing a song, you would be singing in different notes. That's pitch. Intonation again is just the rising and falling of words, especially if it was like stress or if it was like to break. Okay, so it refers to breaks or pauses in speech that indicate a word or grammatical something. So yeah, intonation is just showing like there's emphasis on either the rising or falling. Rising is just in the beginning of the sentence, falling is towards the end. Oh sorry, rising is going up, falling is going down. There you go. That's intonation. I apologize. There is stress as well. Stress meaning like we are kind of like stressing the word longer, elongating it, if that makes sense to you guys. It could also be stress in terms of like the rhythm of how we say things. Like when you say weekend, what's interesting to me is I found out British people don't pronounce it as weekend. They say weekend. That's their pronunciation. I'm like, wacky weekend. Wacky weekend, right? Do you hear the difference? That's stress. In terms of just like saying the word, we have stress in terms of which do we stress in terms of the syllable, right? So that's stress. Stress could also mean like when I'm like reading a sentence to my kids when they're doing their math assignment, I would say some of the students went to the beach. When I say some, that's a stress too because I'm emphasizing it. Rhythm means like, depending on the language that you're learning, maybe if you hear it a lot, you would be familiar in terms of how we speak. So, for example, I hear in English that we have a very monotonous tone, so we talk kind of like this. It's like a straight line. That's like my image of it. We don't go, this is how you do things, like, you know? So it's like, it's not a rhythm that goes up and down. I feel like some languages do have that kind of feature where it's like, it sounds like it's going up and down like a music. I don't know if you guys notice. I think Tagalog has that too. It's kind of bouncy in terms of when I hear it. I hear that, let's see. I'm trying to remember it. There's also like, how do I say this? If you listen to enough of the language that you're learning or the language that you're watching from anime or K-drama, or if you have family, or let's say you go to a place that practices that target language and you're familiar with it, then you kind of hear there's a rhythm in the way that they're talking. And it's that feature that you start to associate with that language. So if someone does not replicate it, you can tell it's different, right? So for example, we witnessed two things of Japanese videos, right? So yesterday we had that woman who lived in the US, and we have a gentleman who's speaking Japanese in using kind of like the English rhythm. So he talks fast, yes. My understanding of it is just the way that his rhythm stands out to me is that it's very Americanized. It's the English American rhythm. put into Japanese, like speaking, or using Japanese with it. So that's how we call it accent, right? We call it accent as the overall topic, but accent is more specific. Accent is pertaining to pronunciation. It doesn't cover just rhythm. Well, maybe it does. It's like an overall umbrella for it, but the way I see accent is like, let's see. I always thought accent was like, oh, it's just pertaining to the pronunciation. So if I were to say, like, okay, let me just give you guys an example, just so you guys understand what I'm saying. Like in Tagalog, you would say ano ka ba, right? Ano ka ba, like, what are you? But if I say it in the American accent, I would say ano ka ba. Do you notice that there's difference in the way that I say it? The rhythm is off. The accent in terms of the pronunciation is off too. It's not a dialect, right? So dialect is different from accent because dialect just means like it's a specific region that has this kind of speaking sense. So dialect would be an example in America. It would be southern dialect. There's a southern accent. That's a dialect. We have the New York versus California, right? That would be a dialect, I believe. I'm also gonna double check as well. Let me find dialect. Yeah. So it's a particular form of a language which is peculiar to a specific region or social group. So it's like a similar version of it. And that's what my cousins and I do now. What? What do you mean? Yeah, so yes, dialect would be a form of language that is spoken in a particular part of the country or a particular group of people. So, for example, in English, we have a lot of versions of it. So that is basically it's not, so yeah, dialect would be like southern accent versus the southern dialect versus the Californian dialect, right? We're all still speaking English. It's just we kind of have a few different words. Maybe our slangs are all different from each other. And also we also have a slight accent where we'd say things or pronounce things differently from each other. So yeah, that's dialect. So, but it's still the same language, if that makes sense to you guys. Do I dare say American English is a dialect and British English is a dialect too? Because we still speak English. It's just slightly different because of the region that we're from. So there's that. When you say things like using your main accent. Oh, okay. So Hans clarified for me the example of saying ano ka ba or ano ka na. So you might use the accent like ano ka ba, right? So you're kind of you're utilizing phonemes that are from English and you're using it and you're plugging it in to Tagalog, right? So that's why it sounds kind of awkward and it just sounds like I always used to say this expression. I would say like I sound like Sam Milby when I speak Tagalog. It was a tease I used to say back in the day, but honestly, Sam Milby he's fine. He's okay. There's no problem in the way that he speaks Tagalog as long as we understand him. That's all that matters. There's also the fact that Tagalog, you have to be kind of keen on how they pronounce things just because we don't use a lot of stress in our words. So when you say minsan lang means sometimes only, or sometimes, right? If you say it with the American accent, minsan lang. So minsan lang versus minsan lang. So you notice that in American, they kind of stress the vowels a little bit longer compared to Tagalog, which is a native version of that speech. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like these little small nuances. You gotta catch them if you and I say this with just like open-mindedness, if you want to pursue learning the accent or learning the pronunciation of the language, it is very challenging and it takes a lot of work to get it right. Let's see. Next, in terms of prosodic features, we have speech rate. Speech rate is how fast you say something. When we watched the video between the Japanese girl who spoke in Japanese fluently versus the American who spoke in Japanese, what I kind of noticed in terms of speech rate is what it actually means. It's exactly what it means. Speech rate means how fast can you talk in that language, or it's similar to rhythm too. Rhythm is like when it's going up and down. It's almost like musical. Speech rate is how fast you say something. So in English, speech rate doesn't really matter because there are some people who prefer to talk a little bit longer than others. Maybe they talk like this, and this is the way that they normally speak. Personally, I speak really fast than the average American, so this is usually my speaking rate, and people feel a little bit intimidated when they talk to me in English because they're like, whoa, you talk very, very quickly. Whereas my friends, they're used to it. There's nothing wrong with it. Some languages might have slower speech rate. So for example, maybe it was either the girl's personality and that's her preference of speaking, but the way I see it was when the girl was speaking, the way that she talked, it was a little bit more relaxed. It was like you could hear every word, so it's like every syllable or every phoneme of what she was saying. It was kind of clear. Versus the American who spoke in Japanese, his Japanese was very, very quickly. I mean, sorry, I should rephrase that. His Japanese was spoken very, very quickly. So I kind of see it that it's the English being used. It's like the English rate, speech rate was being used for Japanese. So there's that. Oh, and the final thing, which is really, really interesting. The final thing when it comes to the prosodic features is pausing, which is really interesting. Okay, I'm trying to remember pause, and there's also like fillers. I guess I don't know if fillers would be under prosodic features. Well, pause is basically, it's a form of interruption to articulate continuity, such as an open or terminal juncture. I'm trying to find a better word for it. A stress word or syllable is usually preceded by a very slight pause. It's spoken at a slightly increased volume. I feel like I'm kind of confused by what they're trying to say here. Yeah, it just sounds kind of confusing. Pause. I think, I don't know if I would say filler would be better. I don't know. But yeah, they just threw on together like these prosodic features. I'm gonna double check another one. Chunking in the interesting. Yeah. I'm just double checking everything here. They have a lot of definitions of prosodic features online. Like there's one that said chunking. I'm like, huh? This other one said accent, and I'm like, accent. Accent meaning like everything phonemic related, I guess. I don't know. They also listed stress, which is true. Rhythm, we already identified that. Tone, pitch, and intonation. Yeah, we covered most of these things. But yeah, so identifying if you are going to be learning another language, you don't really need to worry about prosodic features, and I have to stress that. But if you want to, it's just a lot of extra work. I'm the type of person that wants to nail the prosodic features, so I take even a longer time learning the language because I want to perfect how to pronounce things and sound natural. That's just my preference, though. I never want to reinforce that to people and just be like, no, you have to have a perfect accent. You don't have to. At the end of the day, what matters is that people understand you, and that's it. Anyways, we're gonna move on to the next question because we lingered on this one for a bit longer than usual. What do you guys think? Do you think accent matters? do you think it matters that they should learn it, or do you think it matters to like hide or mask your original not language, your original accent? Do you think does it matter when you're learning languages? I just want to hear your guys' perspective. No right or wrong answers. Welcome, JF Tonmoy. Go ahead and keep writing. I'm also gonna give my input on this. Do I think that accents matter? Depends on how you see it. When it comes to me teaching English to my students, I don't care. Personally, I don't care if they perfect it. I don't mind that if they have an accent. I don't care. Like, I'm very relaxed when it comes to it. I only care that you try your best and that you are able to communicate in English. That's all I care about. I love hearing my students' accent. So if I meet someone who has a very thick accent when they're speaking English, I always want to like guess where they're from. I'm like, oh, this accent, I'm familiar with it. Are you from this place? You know? And I think accents are beautiful because it shows where you're from, which is a good thing, and it could also be a bad thing, which we will discuss later in the next few questions. But in terms of my opinion on accents, I think it doesn't matter when I teach it to someone, just because I love listening to it. Hakezu says, I don't think accents matter. Understanding what someone says is more important. Okay, so you also agree with my point on that. So that's good to hear that you also don't mind it. Anyone else? Okay, so next question, because I'm just waiting. And also feel free, if you want to catch up and just write your answers, that's fine with me, I don't mind. Next. What reason would you care about perfecting accents? So if you were someone who came to learn another language, what would be a reason why you must perfect your accent? I can share with you guys something that I learned with a former student that I used to work with. I used to work with someone who wanted me to help with their accents because people had a difficult time understanding them using they're using the accent that from their country and then importing it into their English. So this student often came to me for lessons in terms of identifying which words he had a hard time or which vowels or sounds were difficult for him to which were off to me in terms of how I wanted to hear it. And again, I don't like to reinforce or force this upon my students that they must have a perfect accent. The only time that I do stress that is if there is a word that is similar or have similar sounds with each other. So I'm gonna give you a perfect example in terms of I'm just thinking about it. Okay, so I'm just gonna be upfront with it. Bed sheet versus bed shit, right? So if you are from a country that does not have the short I sound, it sounds like E. So you can see what I'm saying here. So bed sheet, bed shit, or beach versus bitch. And you know, it's just, I'm just gonna be upfront about it because I've heard that mistake so many times. So there's that. And it's only because there was an occasion where we were practicing the difference between the E and the I sound, and my adult students thought that was funny in terms of the exercise, because they would try to say, like, I don't know, a line from a movie, and of course it would have those cursing words in it, and they would say sheet instead of like oh sheet, right? And I just think it's funny because that's why I'm like, those are the only times I would ever stress about perfecting the accent, because there's just words that have similar sounds, and if you say the wrong pronunciation, it's a different word altogether. But of course, if you are talking in the context of something, native speakers can just catch it like that. So we don't really care about like perfecting it or correcting you, because if we have the context clue around the word, then we can kind of identify what word you were trying to say. Han said, I imagine perfecting an accent would be needed if you were to match a role, like in acting. Okay, that's a good one. So acting, that's for sure, that you'd need to perfect an accent. My example was with a student in terms of, in his business, he was talking to a lot of people who had different English accents. So they couldn't identify what he was saying using his accent, you know? But he was speaking in English, and they weren't used to his way of speaking. And that goes for a lot of people in general. If you're not used to hearing an accent from a certain group, it's normal to not understand what they're saying. So I'm gonna be upfront and just share my experience in terms of when I listened to an Australian. I used to have an Australian boss when I stayed in Indonesia, and he used to talk to me like quickly with the Australian accent, and of course he's using English, but I'm like staring at him because I'm like, I don't understand what he's saying, because the accents for Australian is hard for me to catch at that time because I did not have any Australian friends. He was my first Australian friend in a way, and because of that, it just took a lot of time for me to adjust, because if anything, people can adjust to your accent in English. It's really not a problem. It just depends on the person. But for my student in particular who asked me to change his accent, it's because it's his preference. He wanted to get the English accent, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll teach you the American English accent. But yeah, it's just, I would not force it unless people prefer to have it. It's just for, again, just adjustment purposes. It's really not a problem if a listener hears your accented English. They can always adjust based on exposure, and just listening to you speak in multiple occasions, they can kind of identify the word. And also based on context clues, they can identify what you're trying to say too. But as well, for the speaker, maybe they want to learn the accent is because they want to accommodate their listeners who don't know or are not familiar with their accent. So those are some reasons that I would observe in terms of why people want to learn the accent. Hello Zen, good to see you. Another reason I would say in terms of perfecting accents is that, I hate to say this, and I feel like this should be addressed because it has happened to me. Certain places, if they find out that you're a foreigner, they would charge you more. I don't know if you guys have had that experience before. So an example would be, I remember I went to Indonesia and I was going to the safari zoo. And basically the safari zoo was that you stayed in your car and the animals were free roaming in the zoo. So I would be inside my car and vehicle, and I would just look out my window and there's all the animals there, right? So I passed, the way that I looked, I passed off as an Indonesian. All of my friends just told me, don't speak. Because the moment you speak, they'll find out that you're a foreigner. And if you're a foreigner, your price is even higher. Because understandably, Indonesia would technically make their money on foreigners and price them higher because, how do I say this? Because in terms of their currency is it's really, really, really low. So thus it makes Indonesia quite cheap in terms of if you live in a country that has very high currency. So if they find out that I spoke English fluently and I didn't speak Bahasa Indonesian, then they would price me at what they call the bule price. Bule meaning like foreigner, the foreigner price. And that's another reason why maybe some people might care about perfecting their accent, is to avoid getting like charged with prices that are pertaining to foreigners. So that's another reason why people would probably learn to perfect an accent. Alright, next question. We have, why do you think people care about getting rid of their accents when learning a different language? So in this question, I kind of already answered it in terms of one of the reasons could be avoiding higher prices. So there's one where if you have an accent of speaking in a certain language, you might be priced differently, which is a little unfair, I understand. But some countries do that, unfortunately. I don't think America does it. I don't think the US does it, maybe. I don't know. I just hope that they don't. I would say US is already expensive as is, so I'm just like, I don't think we do that. So, yeah. But I do know some countries do this. I know Indonesia was one of them, unfortunately. But yeah, whatever could help their business, I guess. I'm thinking about other reasons why people would care about getting rid of their accents. I also kind of mentioned this or answered it in terms of like my student who wanted to get rid of his accent when he spoke English was to help his colleagues understand him better. So that's why he wanted more practice on perfecting the accent or the American English accent. Takesu says probably depends on the state. Okay, that's a good argument there. Because I can only speak on behalf of Southern California. I don't notice anyone who's giving prices on accents when you speak. I don't know, it's just weird. Yeah. Hans also kind of answered this, why people would get rid of their accent is like if you are acting, that would make sense too. I think another reason why you would lose your accent is I also think if I'm like thinking about being a spy right now, Spy Family, it's on my mind. If you are assigned to be like an undercover cop, for example, or if you are a spy or like in a country, you need to perfect having the accent because you don't want to stand out, and if you stand out it doesn't look good. So yeah, playing the role of something, you might have to get rid of your accent. Sorry, just yawning. You might have to get rid of your accent if you are like a spy or something, if you're picking up a role. Han said that the want to be understood better is the main thing reason to fix accents. I see. That is definitely one I would understand because a lot of times, a lot of my students tell me that they want to sound more native-like and they want to be understood by their friends. So it makes sense why they would want to get rid of their accents is because they want to be clear. I think that's one thing I've always heard from my students, like, oh, I want to be clear, I want to be understood, I want to express myself in English. And I'm like, okay. So yeah. Good points. Alright, this is the last one. Do you believe that accents are what IDs a person's ethnicity? What I mean by this is like... Sorry, I keep yawning. Sorry. Do you believe that accents are what IDs a person's ethnicity? What I mean by this is that the student or the person, when they are speaking English and they have a very strong accent when they speak English, it IDs them. So would it be like, oh, this person's definitely a foreigner speaking in English? Or is that the first thing that stands out about them? I'm trying to remember how I wrote this earlier, and I'm also coming from like still trying to wake up at this moment. That's why I'm like pausing a lot because I'm like processing a lot of things. I'm trying to think of something. The reason why I said ethnicity is because interestingly, there are people who have a very strong accent and maybe they might just still be American despite that. I think that's what I was trying to say here. Or is it like, I can't, honestly, I can't remember what I was trying to say with this. My processing is like, where was my brain going in this? It was clear to me when I wrote it. That's why I kept it. But seeing it now with my brain being like half asleep still, I'm like, I don't know what I was trying to say here. I'm just trying to remember what I was trying to think about when I wrote this question, because I was trying to say like a person's accent, when we hear it, does it ID the person? Like, do you think our identity is tied to our accent in a way? I think that's what I'm trying to say. I think. So if you guys feel lost, I'm even more lost right now with my half asleep brain. I'm still processing at the moment. Let's see. Do I believe that accents are what IDs a person's ethnicity? Yes and no, I would say. Because it depends on how someone sees this as well. Because like for me, when I hear someone have an accent when they're speaking English, I think it's cute. I'm like, oh, that's adorable. I love that I can hear where they're from their way that they're saying stuff in English. It can help tell us where they're from. But I also worry in terms of like, you know, some people might think that, oh, because they have a very thick accent, maybe it might affect the way that we perceive them in terms of their acquisition in language. Just because sometimes people can perceive others that if they have an accent in English, that their English is lower than what they think. It happens sometimes, unfortunately. And it's because people think, oh, because your English has an accent and the way that you speak, it means that you have a much lower English comprehension or the ability to express yourself in English, which is unfortunate because it does happen. For me, since I've been working with a lot of English speakers or English learners, I have to look for a lot of things. It could also be just like a preference. Like, this is why a person speaks is like this, you know, for example. It could be preference. It could also be that's just how they speak. So yeah, I wouldn't perceive accents as just like an ID in terms of like their language level per se. Han said accents help tell where the people can be from, but it doesn't mean they're from there. Like the people who speak two languages. That's a good point, right? So the example that we saw was yesterday's video when it came to that Japanese woman who spoke fluent in both English and Japanese. And because she has both of the prosodic features in these languages, and she's fluent in both, as we can tell, we could tell that she's from both of these places. So it's interesting to see that. So in a way, yes, that accents do ID where you're from, but it could be good or bad thing. So Han said, or if people code switch between accents for different moments. That's a good point. And I love that you use a keyword there, code switching. So if you go like English in one and then switch to Tagalog, and then you're using the accent for English and it extends into Tagalog, for example, which does happen. There are moments where if I speak Tagalog for long durations, my English starts to get rubbed off and it starts to have more of the Tagalog accent when I speak in English. It does happen though. I also notice it happens too when you're learning another language. So it happened to me when I was in Indonesia. I was surrounded by Indonesians, of course, since I lived there for 6 months. And the more that they spoke in English, the more my English was being influenced by the way that they said it. So yeah, in a way, that's what I mean by sometimes you can't ID, and that, okay, now I understand where you're going with this. So that's why you can't always ID a person's ethnicity, because it could be just influence too. So it's interesting. It's not an immediate thing, I would say, in terms of my experience, but if I'm around a crowd of people who have an accented English, I will catch it. I will be influenced by it. For me, it happened around the 6-month mark. So when I stayed in Indonesia for 6 months, it was around the 6th month, I was starting to have moments where I pronounced English words exactly like my Indonesian friends, and I'm just like, oh yeah, definitely, it's rubbed off. So it's an influence. Could be another one too. So there's that. All right, so we got to the end of today's stream. Sorry, it's just been a very, very long rant in terms of understanding prosodic features. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. So again, I'm really glad to hear that all of us generally agree that accents really don't matter. As long as we were being understood, that's all that really matters. I think it's really cool if people have accents because it tells me where you're from. It could also be influenced, who knows? And yeah, it's just really interesting to just see English on that. GG, good game. GG Hakezu, thank you Hans. Today my brain is very foggy. I'm just sleepy. I'm just sleepy than usual. I don't know why. I'm just starting to feel kind of sleepy. I want to go back to sleep after this stream, but I shouldn't because I do have to get to work and prepare some stuff for work as well. So yeah. Let's go back. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions, feel free to write. You can type it right now, or you can just write in the comments section under YouTube or on Discord, wherever I post a link here. But other than that, that's pretty much today's stream and this week's stream on video discussions. I hope this was interesting and fun because who knows, maybe in the future I'll do more video discussions. Maybe I'll do more research and discussion streams, or maybe I might just go back to conversation practice. Really all up to you guys. Yeah. So Hans says, check out THC livestream 3 for another explanation of prosodic features. Oh, okay, thank you. So stream number 3, I'm so glad you still remember because I had a live stream where I talked about a lot of things. So yeah, if you watch my previous streams, I did cover more in detail about prosodic features. So thank you for that, Hans, for the reminder. I actually don't remember that. Yeah, so kind reminders again. Conversation practice is from Tuesday through Thursday at 5 a.m. PDT, PST. English for Everyone is on Tuesday at 8 p.m. PDT, PST. It won't change even though the time zone changes. And just a heads up, I go based on wherever the PDT or Pacific time changes, I follow that. So depending on you guys, it might be 1 hour forward or back. If you're watching this from a different part of the world that doesn't have time zones, so yeah. Everything is more updated on Discord, so if you ever feel the need to be like, oh, I want to hear the news faster, Discord, just join the Discord group. The link is in the description box on YouTube, or you can join by clicking the link on my Instagram profile, and then you can find the invitation to Discord link, the Discord link right there, so click that and then you're already in. But yeah, that's it for today's stream. I need to wake up because I'm still sleepy. But I wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Forgive me for like my brain fog today. It's been a day. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some coffee in a bit, so hopefully that will wake me up. Don't forget to drink some water and stay hydrated. Eat something healthy. Or you guys, if you're gonna go back to sleep, get some rest. I will see you guys next week, so take care until then. Also, Hans, don't forget Hawaiian theme. Hawaiian theme. We're going to a dance tonight to celebrate our friends' birthdays. So yeah, don't forget to wear Hawaiian today. I'm gonna try and find something Hawaiian as well. All right, I'm gonna head out now, guys. See y'all next week, and stay safe, stay healthy, and yeah, see you then. Bye. Take care.